Hello once again and welcome to A Matter of Perspective. I'm Judge Derwin Webb, recording from the Fraser History Museum located in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. Today's guest is a good friend of mine, Miss ShaRae Mansfield, a person who really doesn't need an introduction if you know who she is. ShaRae, you are a basketball Hall of Famer, Manual High School, Western Kentucky University. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, you are the epitome of the student athlete.
Yes.
You did a lot of things in high school and college. Tell me about your upbringing before we get to the basketball portion. Tell me about growing up in Louisville.
Yeah, so growing up in Louisville, my parents, my mother, Pam, and my stepfather, Jerry, they knew I was interested in sports, but they never forced me to play. Mm-hmm. It was always optional for me. And either way it went, they were supportive, you know. Mm-hmm. My mother, she was more scared of me getting injured and, are you sure you want to play? What if you get hurt? You know, that type of thing. But they were the best, you know. Once I began to develop into the player, they supported me all the way.
Now, was it just basketball or other sports?
No.
Okay.
It was not just basketball. That's a very interesting story. So when I was in middle school, I started out in track and field, right? And so was really quick. And I was on this relay team, and I was the last runner. The baton was handed off to me. I dropped it. Mm-hmm. It rolled up under the bleachers. We were in first place. That baton rolled up on the bleachers. Me and my friend, we were trying to get it. I was destroyed. That switched my love for track and field. And so that's how a lot of people don't know that, but that's the main reason why I started playing basketball, because I was so embarrassed and destroyed with track.
So basically, we would not know this great basketball player that we know now had you not dropped the baton.
Exactly. So, and that is so interesting you say that, because I say that baton drop was the beginning of pretty much everything for me. It was a mistake, but I bounced back and made something good of it.
Right, but obviously you were a good student and you wound up going to Manual High School.
Yes.
So tell me about your matriculation to Manual High School.
Oh my goodness, it was wonderful. Manual is a school that I always wanted to go to. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go to any other high school. And I was interested at first in the art program because I draw, mm-hmm. but it came out that communications was my love. Mm-hmm. And so beyond basketball, the reason why I went to Manual was for communications. Okay. I wanted to be a broadcaster. Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, actually. Right. So the best school, the best high school in the world, Manual is, mm-hmm. Oh, it was a beautiful experience.
So you're the student athlete at Manual High School, doing well in the classroom, yes. Obviously doing well in sports, and all these different universities start recognizing you for your athletic ability. Yes. What made you choose Western Kentucky? Well,
it was close to home. Mm-hmm. I'll say that. Just about every college recruited me. Because back in the day, I was like, I can't even remember my stats, but I know I was like one of the top seniors in the United States. Mm-hmm. So you talk about Connecticut, Tennessee, Harvard, mm-hmm. You know, these schools were recruiting me, but I went on one college visit, and it was to Western Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And when I went on that visit, of course, I could have took 5, right? I don't know if
right.
that's changed. I don't think it's changed, but I could have took 5. But once I went to Western, I fell in love. And I said, this is where I need to be.
Okay, so talk about your transition from high school to college. So you're this new freshman on campus, no longer the big person on campus, but in fact, you actually were when you went to Western. You were a star once you stepped foot on campus. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so going to Western, it definitely was a transition, going from high school to college. You know, I'm like, I'm going to be a greenie. How am I going to be accepted, especially by my teammates? Because we spend so much time together, right? Mm-hmm. You know how it is. The friends that I developed at Western, the players, Leslie Johnson. I believe you met Leslie.
I know Leslie, yes.
At the Indiana Hall of Fame.
Correct.
Leslie Johnson was the player, and everybody else was sweet. I'll say that. They were sweet, and they welcomed me. But Leslie was the one who I had long talks with about basketball. She recognized something, a talent in me, that I didn't see. I hadn't made any records, broke any records at Western at that time. And we had a talk, and she's like, ShaRae, you got to understand. She said, I see something in you. You have a power, You have a power, and you need to utilize it. Stay yourself. Never change, no matter what your career turns into. She said, always stay humble. Always stay humble. Leslie, oh my goodness, she's still a good friend of mine.
And I know she still speaks very highly of you because when I met her, she talked about you and the relationship that you had. But she didn't really talk about the basketball as much as she talked about you being that great of a person.
Yes.
Now, she talked about a lot of things outside of basketball. So outside of basketball, what are some of the things you guys talked about that led you to be who you are today?
Don't let males influence you. And, she's like, you're going to be good. She saw that. She was like, you're going to be good. You're going to be a star. I wasn't a star at that time. It's going to be guys who are going to try to be a part of your life. And she would always tell me, just watch them. Just be aware that you're focused on education. This is Leslie in college telling me, like she was my big sister, Just
almost like your mom.
Almost like my mother, away from home.
Right.
Just focus on education. Don't worry about the boys, and all this. And I did. I focused on education, focused on sports, education before sports, of course, always.
Right.
But yeah, Leslie definitely left her mark on me.
So you take that advice, you graduate from Western Kentucky University,
Yes.
And then you get a phone call saying that you were drafted in the WNBA by the Houston Comets. Tell me
Yes.
about that feeling.
Wow. It was unbelievable, because I was a girl who was from Newburgh in Louisville, Kentucky, and that was just something that wasn't heard of. A female athlete going to play professional basketball, getting drafted, it was unbelievable. And I was at home when the Houston Comets called me. I was at home with my family. My whole family came over. They had balloons all outside. And I remember sitting there in the living room, and they called my name. First pick of the third round. Yeah, 33. And they called my name. And I have a cousin, Ryan Bridgewaters, and my cousin Randy, who unfortunately he passed. But I remember Ryan being in the living room. As soon as they called my name, he got up, he left the house. He went outside, and he was running up and down. He was running up and down the street. My sister, because we call each other brothers and sisters.
Right.
My sister got drafted to the WNBA, Houston Comets. He's like that. He makes a big deal out of everything that I do.
So what was it like being a professional athlete?
Well, it was honestly scary, because even when I got drafted to Houston, I knew my knee wasn't in the best condition. As far as going to Houston, they take care of you. You don't have to worry about money. Your house is paid for. I was in a condo paid for, car taken care of. I didn't have to have anything or bring anything. But the thing about going to Houston, whenever you get drafted, NBA, WNBA, you are an investment for that team.
Right.
Okay. Prior to going to being drafted, I had already had 4 knee surgeries, ACL reconstruction, and three arthroscopic surgeries. And so I remember getting a call, ShaRae, we need you to come to the hospital. we need you to get an MRI of your knee. We want you to talk to the doctors, make
Was
sure.
this before or after the draft?
This is after the draft.
Okay.
I'm living in Houston, Texas. You know, so I go get the MRI, get the results back a couple of days later, and the doctor calls me back into the office. You know, we see something going on with your knee. They called it hydrochondritis, which basically meant that at that time that the cartilage on my knee was constantly chipping off. So not even a month, a couple of weeks after being drafted to Houston, I was told by the doctor that I probably have maybe 5 years playing professionally, and then I'm gonna have to have a full knee replacement because of how my knee looked. So after that, of course, once the coaches at Houston found out about how bad my knee was, they're like, no, she's an investment. We gotta let her go. And so I was released from the team, and I just felt broken at that time, you know, because it felt like the dream was being taken away. And I got a call from the Washington Lynx, because if you're in the draft 1, 2, and 3, you automatically get placed on another team if you're released from the team.
Right.
And at that time, psychologically, I was just pretty much, I didn't give up, but I was kind of.
But in your mind, you're done.
Yes,
You're
in my
done.
mind. So the Lynx called, talked to the head coach, and, you know, I just told her I'm not coming. Because at that time, I had in my mind that I wasn't going to play professionally at all, but I had an agent by that time, and he was like, you know, we have a job for you overseas in Israel. And that's how I went to Israel, was turning down a job at the Lynx and going to Israel like a month later.
Okay, so you're over in Israel now, and you are seeing that your knee is not getting any better.
Yes.
So what made you decide, okay, I'm done, I can't do this anymore?
Well, I got to Israel, and, you know, I don't know why had in my mind, okay, maybe at this level I'd be able to compete, you know, because WNBA was, you know, it's difficult to compete, especially if you're on one leg.
Right.
And so I thought when I went to Israel that it would be a little easier to survive. But I was placed on one of the top Euro teams, you know, and we played teams that were just as good as the teams in the WNBA.
Right.
And so,
A lot of Americans over there?
yes. Leslie was over there. Leslie Johnson was
Right.
in Israel on another team. And so, of course, with Leslie being there, just imagine the other players that were there as well.
Right.
So it was still difficult. And then I just said, you know, no, I didn't just say. The coaches recognized that physically I probably wasn't going to be able to do it, even the Israeli coaches. And so after 4 months, I was released from the team in Israel.
Okay, so you got released after 4 months, so you are at this crossroads trying to figure out
Yeah.
what you're going to do. How hard of a decision was it for you to say, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah. It was difficult because, I mean, just extremely difficult because I knew myself as the athlete, you know? It was extremely difficult to I don't want to start crying.
Now, take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
It was just difficult to let that go, you know, because that's all I wanted to do. It was my dream. And so not being able to do it was like, I felt broken. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I'll tell you this, when I went to play, when I got drafted And then I went overseas to Israel. A lot of people don't know this, but I'm going to be honest. I hadn't finished college at Western yet. I hadn't finished. And so I came back home after being released from the Israeli team, not knowing what I was going to do. I knew I hadn't finished college. And, you know, I was just lost. And this is what I study in my PhD now. That feeling of being an athlete who's transitioning into this world that we don't know. So I didn't, once I got released from Israel, I didn't go right back to school to finish my degree at Western. I sat in what I call, and I'm gonna get a copyright on this, I call a basketball depression. You know? So I was supposed to graduate in 2001 from Western, officially graduated in 2005. I spent 4 years trying to figure out who I was.
I get it. And the reason why I say that is because you go through all your life, your semi-adult life, being
Yes.
defined by one thing, being able to play basketball.
Yes.
So you're a star in high school.
Yes.
You're a star in college. You get drafted into the pros, and then all of a sudden it's just taken away.
Yeah.
And then you have to make the decision on who am I going to be, because everyone else is defining me as
Yes.
this athlete. So
Yes.
how did you make the transition to become who you are today? Now, I know that you're working on your doctoral program right now. Tell us about that before we get to more questions.
Okay. After I finished my master's in industrial organizational psychology is what it is. I said I had a passion to study the athletic transition. And so I said, I need to go back to school again, and that's going to be my focus, is trying to understand what do us athletes go through psychologically.
What did you go through?
Depression, basketball depression. You know, it just went through a loss of identity, which is in my dissertation. You don't know who you are, you know, because I hadn't became a store manager or anything like that yet. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, you know? And so just that feeling of lost, it's just unbelievable. And people, they don't understand how serious that can be
I
for
understand.
the athlete.
But let me ask you this. Now, you have daughters.
Yes.
How do you use some experiences that you've had in the past to help raise them right now?
Well, of course, my daughters, they had the expectation that I expected them to play sports. So with my daughters, just because mommy plays sports, you do not have to do what I do, you know? And so with them, I let them know that it's not my choice on whether or not they play basketball, ran track, did whatever. You know, they are free to choose whatever. And the thing that really helped me with that is I had so many friends whose parents forced them. You know, they forced them. Those are the ones who get burnt out on sports because they got this parent in their ear
Trying to live their dream.
trying to live their dream. And I explained to my girls, honeys, I have 3 girls. Mom has already lived her dream. I've already lived my dream. You all live your own dreams, whatever they may be.
Let me go back to something real quick. Now, we talked about your knee
Yes.
and how it forced you into retirement where you had to refocus.
Yes.
But let's talk about some of the things I've read about you. Now, you were on the cover of an arthritis magazine.
Yes.
And you were talking about rheumatoid arthritis. Tell me how that has affected your life.
Oh my goodness. Arthritis Today magazine, they had the senior editor, she said she started stalking me for a little while. And because there's posts that I had about arthritis and helping other people, other women, men who had it as well. And there's one particular post that she saw. And she said, okay, I need to contact this woman. We need to talk to her. That's how it started. And so from there, they, of course, did the interview, photo shoot, whatever. I was in the magazine. But the reasoning for an arthritis type magazine contacted me is because in 2011, surprisingly, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and interstitial lung disease.
Okay, tell me about that.
Yes, never smoked a cigarette in my life. Rheumatoid arthritis it's an immune system disorder. Okay, immune system disorder. Basically, my immune system gets confused. It thinks all the fluid in my body, the fluid in my joints, fluid in my eyes, fluid around my lungs, fluid around my heart, it thinks that fluid is a foreign substance. And so my immune system tries to get rid of all of it. And for me, for some reason, my immune system just didn't like my lungs. And so what it does, it attacks it, tries to destroy the fluid around it, which causes swelling, causes inflammation, kind of like a pneumonia, but one that my immune system is causing.
Okay,
Yeah.
help me understand this.
Yes.
Okay, you are a Hall of Fame basketball player.
Yes.
You played all your life, you played sports. And in 2011, you get diagnosed with this.
Yes.
You're actually a walking miracle right now. So
Yeah.
will this be with you for the rest of your life? Is there any kind of medication? What do you do to treat this now?
Well, that's a good question. It's actually a fabulous question because it's not just rheumatoid arthritis, unfortunately. Last year, 2019, I was diagnosed with MS2, which is another immune system disorder. So when you have one, they say other ones can come. Now, as far as treating both disorders, I take infusions.
Okay.
Like I'm getting chemotherapy. I'll go right down to Norton's on Dutchman, Women's and Children's Hospital, and get infusions.
Well, let me ask-
7-hour infusions.
Let me ask you this: with all the things that you've had to go through, you've been an athlete, so you understand how to deal with adversity.
Oh, yes.
So, do you feel as if the diagnosis that you've had recently, all the medical situations you've had, do you think that athletics has helped you deal with some of the information you've received and all the things you've had to do with that?
Yeah. You know, okay. Unfortunately, athletics hid those conditions. Because
So you've always had it, just hid it.
hid it.
Okay.
My doctors say that I had it since elementary school. Had rheumatoid arthritis and MS. Okay? And so, but I didn't know though. I didn't know. So I was still able to live out my career without this knowledge of knowing what could possibly hold me back. You know? So I think that's my blessing, is that even though I had these conditions, I didn't know about them. So I played in pain. I've been in pain. Now I'm in remission, thank God.
Thank God.
But growing up, before knowing that I had rheumatoid arthritis, especially, I've been in pain since middle school. Is when it started, but we didn't know what it was. We thought I was an athlete in middle school, so we always blamed the pain on basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I know you well enough to know that you always have a plan
Yes.
with something.
Yes, of course.
You're in this doctoral program. You scheduled to finish next year.
Yes.
So you'll be Dr. Mansfield.
Yes.
What do you plan on doing with that?
Well, my plan from the very beginning, even before I started school, was to work with former athletes like myself, like yourself, who are transitioning to their careers. And my degree is business psychology, So it does have a psychology background to it. And so I want to help them transition, because when I was at Western, there was a psychologist similar to what I'm studying. She's actually on my dissertation committee, Dr. Elizabeth Schoenfeld. She was there for us athletes, if we had any trouble. She was the person, the professional that we could go to if we had any questions, you know? And so she's like my role model, and I want to follow in her footsteps and help other athletes like she helped us.
Okay, I have to ask a question. We talked about being defined by other people.
Yes.
If I say the name ShaRae Mansfield, you'll hear Basketball Hall of Fame. Hear Manual grad. Hear Hooper. You'll hear mother. You'll hear doctoral candidate. Let me ask you this. How do you want people to see you?
I want them to see me as a person who is able to deal with adversity, a strong person, you know, that doesn't let anything hold them back, you know, doesn't give up. Because like I told you, I was at a point where, you know, I kind of wanted to give up on basketball. And then I was at a point where I had to give up on basketball. Mm-hmm. But just because those type of adversities happen, it doesn't mean you can't do anything else with your life.
Right.
You know, that's why I started a women's support group. Mm-hmm. That magazine that you talk about, the Arthritis Today magazine, that's helped the women's support group grow. Actually, now we're men and women support group. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my message for people is don't let anything hold you back, because we don't know what the future is going to hold for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. We talk about your 3 daughters.
Yes.
Based upon everything you've been through and based upon some of the things that you see today. Now, I know you well enough to know that you've gone to some of the protest marches.
Yes. And
you participated with your daughters. With the way things are today, if your kids were your age now, what would you want them to know? How would you want things to be for them?
Well, of course, I would hope that what's going on now would not happen if they were my age. But I would want them to know that they have a voice and they don't have to be silent. And if it means protesting for a good cause, speaking up and speaking out, as I say it, they can do that. You know, I don't want them to feel like just because they're African American women that they need to shut up, that they don't need to say anything. You know, I want them to see their power, no matter what their complexion is, what their ethnicity is. You know, I want them to be inspirational to other little girls who are going to go down the same path that they go down. That's what I want. I want to be an inspiration.
Well, let me just tell you this. As we close, you are an inspiration.
Thank
You're an
you.
inspiration to not only the kids that you have, but to other kids. And I want other kids to know about you. So instead of just telling them about you, guess what?
Oh.
This is going to go up in my courtroom. You're going to sign this.
Oh, yeah.
So that when people see this, they know it's you.
Oh, thank you.
You are more than just a student athlete. You're more than just a Hall of Famer. You are a great person, ShaRae. I appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Thank
you.
you.
And I know that you have bigger things to accomplish. So I just appreciate you being a part of A Matter of Perspective. Thank you for being here today. And once
Thank
again,
you.
do the best you can with those girls, because they are the greatest things ever. I know them personally, and I'm happy that you're their mother.
Thank you.
Because you just do such a great job with them.
Thank you so much.
Once again, this is A Matter of Perspective. I'm Judge Derwin Webb, and we'll see you next time on our show.